Okay, so now we're going to pack the bottom frame that has the result label and the button in it. So this one here. So just these two controls in the bottom frame. And again, I'm going to use grid because it's just to get them like kind of in a regular format there, one on top of the other, nicely lined up. Very importantly, our button responds to a click, the user mouse click, and so I have that connected to my function that I've defined up at the top. So hopefully we'll get to that in this video as well. So let's take a look here at the code. Okay, so I'm all the way at the bottom here in my code, creating a label. Now this belongs to the bottom frame. Again, using the style to get that nice and green. And the text variable, once again, remember these text variables, these string bars that I created to correspond to each of these essential controls. So the text variable for the label is the future value. So that's really what's going to hold this data here and allow us to change that and update that at runtime. So in this, again, I'm using grid, and we're column 0, row 0. The button is going to be column 0, row 1. So it's just a single column with an index of 0 and one on top of the other in 2 rows. Okay, so for the button, again, belongs to the bottom frame using T button style, which is not working, as I had already mentioned. And then setting the text, and very importantly, setting the command here, the command, to the get future or click get future value function that I have defined up above. Okay, so I'm headed there in just a moment. I just want to remind you that this root.main loop, this is the very last line of code in the file, and that is like what launches the window when the user clicks the run button. So don't forget that. So let's go up to the top here. We're almost home free. Now these, what I'm referencing here, like initial investment.get. So I've really, all I have to do is reach into those entries, get the user's inputs, plug them into my future value formula to get the future value of the investment, and then display a message to the user. This initial investment.get, okay, and interest rate.get, numYears.get, those are my string bars that I created down here. Okay, those allow us to get data dynamically, you know, at runtime from those receptacles, those variables, and and they're coming in as strings. They're string bars, right? String. So I have to cast that to a float as that money is coming in. And the interest rate as well. That's a float. The years, you could just do an int on that, if we, which would limit this application to whole numbers for years, but that's fine. And then once I have those in variables, I'm home free. Okay, I just plug them into the formula. Then I have to get the future value. So lastly, setting the text to this label here. First, I just created the message in advance. We've done this type of technique before. Okay, so I won't go into that here, but just, creating a nice string, formatting everything, formatting the money to look nice, 2 decimals, commas for the thousands, and just using format here and plugging those values in. And then, again, this is the future value. That's one of those string bars, one of the 4 string bars, and I can use set on that to set that to the message. Again, dynamically changing the contents of that control at runtime. So those string bars are really important. They make it possible. They're like a middleman here, but a really important middleman between the control itself and us and what we want to do with that control, whether we're getting, user input out of that control or updating the control to display a result, whatever. But those string bars are important here. So yeah, that's it. That's your full future value application in TK-Inter.